Alright, Samsung sells a lot of phones. In fact, they've sold literally billions of phones. But here's the thing, you probably mostly know Samsung for their higher end S-series devices or maybe their Z-series foldables, and it's because these are the phones Samsung puts the most effort into and the most research and development, and they're the most expensive. But out of Samsung's entire sales, these phones are actually their best sellers. Enter the A-series. The A-series is a super affordable lineup of Samsung devices that brings the core features of their flagships to more affordable phones. And because Samsung is such a sought-after, well-acclaimed brand, and these phones are so accessible, as you'll see in a bit, they fly off the shelves with every new release. And with this year's latest A devices, the A14 and A54, Samsung has taken this line to a new level. So let's start with the A14. The box is definitely a cheaper one, but the phone looks nice. I want you to guess what you think this phone costs the more I talk about it. Because even just a few years ago, phones around this price were so bare bones and were just a struggle to use with cheap materials, poor design, low resolution screens, zero viewing angle, and tiny batteries that barely held up. But the A14 packs a punch. While still made from plastic, look at this interesting design and texture. And the screen is so spectacular. It's very bright when viewing indoors, the colors are crisp, and it's a high-res 1080p panel, so it actually keeps up with phones closer to $800. And the 90Hz refresh rate is a way bigger jump from the old 60Hz than it seems. This feels so smooth, and it holds up well with a 5000 mAh battery, the exact same capacity as the highest end phones. You got a triple camera setup, and even flagship flourishes from years ago that have been abandoned, like the headphone jack or micro SD card slot, for quickly and cheaply expanding storage. And of course it's got 5G, and it actually supports a solid selection of bands to get amazing cellular speeds. So, do you have a number in your head on what you think this costs? Because the Galaxy A14 5G is just $200. That's the price you can get it on Samsung.com, brand new, unlocked, shipped to your home. It's not perfect, the processor in the phone won't be nearly as quick as something higher end. It definitely slows down a decent bit, but you'd be surprised how little that occurs compared to cheaper phones from years before. The phone does also come with a lot of bloatware and apps pre-installed, which is part of how the price is lower on here, since the companies that make these apps will pay Samsung to put them there. And one time it even randomly presented me with this sort of like Tinder for ads and offers. I swiped left on all of them. I'm too good for them. But yeah, you get the idea. The software itself also isn't as featured as Samsung's better phones. While it does run the latest One UI 5 on top of Android 13, it's actually running the core version, which strips away most of the cool features, so it's less intensive on the hardware of the phone. But Samsung says this phone will be supported for 4 years, which is really great for its longevity. So to summarize, for $200, you'll get something really solid here. It'll last you a while, hold up well, just know that you'll notice some corners being cut. But now for around $400, we get a big boost in several big areas, with the Galaxy A54. And for starters, this feels like a flagship with aluminum rails, a glossy glass back, and this gorgeous violet color. You could easily hand this $400 phone to a few people, and provided they're a little less in the know, they'd probably tell you it costs something around $700. It feels so much more premium, and that extends to the display as well, which is upgraded in a big way too. This time with a 6.4-inch 1080p 120Hz AMOLED display with slimmer bezels than the A14. The even higher refresh rate feels so nice, and performance is also upgraded big time over the A14, as you'll see in this benchmark. The cameras are also more detailed and capture more information in each shot, and they added Snapchat filters via the fun mode built into the camera app. The Galaxy A54 also has more RAM, twice the storage at 128 gigs, plus more if you expand it with the micro SD card slot. However, you do lose the headphone jack. I also like how the A54 is a little bit smaller and easier to use with one hand, and it runs the full version of One UI 5 with all the cool features. So for twice the price, I'd say you're getting a pretty good value compared to the A14 if you feel like you need or want some of the extra perks you get with a slightly higher end phone, and it's definitely several steps closer to the more desired flagships. So yes, I recommend both of these phones, but there is so much more fish in the sea, so many more cheap phone options. Motorola, TCL, OnePlus, Nokia, Celero, the T-Mobile Revel, they're all pretty competitive in the budget battle, so why is everyone choosing Samsung over them? Especially globally where there are even more amazing options from companies like Xiaomi, Oppo, Realme, and others. Well, Samsung is more desired than all of them. Here's the thing, Samsung makes a lot of cheaper phones. In the US they don't offer many, but in other countries like India, they have a whole selection of A-series budget phones. But not only that, 2 other entire series of budget phones like the M series and the F series. And I think I know why. Mr. Who's the Boss recently made a video covering the A14 and why it sells so well globally. And I agree with his point that Samsung knows the markets they're selling to. In India, for example, more people choose less expensive phones, but then they upgrade them way more frequently, sometimes even as little as 6 months at a time before the previous phone is then handed down to another family member or sold. It means more people can get the newest phones more often and spend less money. It's why Samsung and other companies make so many cheaper phones. They know people will buy them up, and it's why in these markets, especially around Southeast Asia, are so competitive in the budget realm. But in the US, Europe, and other markets where people tend to buy less but more expensive and longer lasting phones, I think this A lineup has a different purpose. Because these devices, especially the A10 and the A50 series, sell amazingly in the US, because there is still a huge group of people who don't have the budget to fit in a flagship, or aren't with a major carrier that can get them a good financing deal on a top-tier telephone. Through some more affordable providers like Metro or Boost in the US, you can get this A14 for free. I actually got this one for free at Metro with a plan. And for the people who just want more bang for their buck and don't want or need to spend as much on a phone, which is probably most people in 2023, the A54 is really nice. Samsung makes these phones to work for as many people as possible. They're made for the masses. They're made to fit into almost anyone's lifestyle, which is why they have features like the headphone jack, micro SD card slots, and I feel like they just give you maybe a bit more options, more freedom on what you can do with the phone compared to a flagship that might be more restrictive. All these phones have flat displays instead of curved displays, so they might be more comfortable and easier to hold. And most of these A-series phones are also made from plastic, which is definitely more scratch prone, but 100% less crack prone, meaning they might hold up a little bit better. They support most major network bands, they've got long-lasting batteries, and they even add some extras on top, so the phones feel nice. They're designed to bring people into Samsung services and Samsung's ecosystem, and they visually look very similar to higher-end Samsung phones to make Samsung's phones in general iconic and easily recognizable. So to summarize, these new Galaxy A phones are really solid if you want a more affordable phone, and every year, these Galaxy A phones are amazing options if you want a more affordable phone, and in general with less expensive phones, they get better and better every year as more stuff from the flagships trickles down to lower prices. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like below to let me know, subscribe to never miss the next one, and I'll see you there.